So I'm doing a video about the goofiest senator that's currently serving, Joe Manchin, and this article that was written about him in the Daily Beast. It's called "Face It, Democrats, Joe Manchin is Your Only Hope" by Jill Lawrence. Who said this about the Senate and gun law reform after the indescribable horror in Uvalde? This is about basically protecting children. If they can't rise to that, they ought to deep dig inside and find out why in the heck we're here. Who wants the Senate to cut prescription drug prices, raise taxes on corporations, add money for the IRS to do its job better, and offer tax credits for clean energy? And who has so far voted 95% of the time in line with President Joe Biden's nominees and positions? If you didn't guess Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, you were wrong. And if you're surprised, you shouldn't be. To be clear, Manchin will never be a progressive hero. He's got corporate ties and sympathies. He was once on the board of the super conservative American Legislative Exchange Council. He's worried about the federal deficit. He's skeptical about government spending. He's an unreliable partner. And yes, that 95% score is in part because he blocks some nominees and bills before votes are cast. Glad the article admits it. But could another Democrat win statewide in West Virginia? Would progressives prefer a Republican over Manchin? It's time to stop bashing him and appreciate him for what he is, a Democratic ally more often than not. I've excoriated House Freedom Caucus Republicans who act as if the whole country is just like their districts, who think they're entitled to impose their will on the rest of us. Well, America is not a giant-sized version of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's New York City district. If Democrats are here, if Democrats are to have any prayer of hanging on to majorities in 2022 and 2024, they shouldn't beat up on a Democratic senator from a state Donald Trump won by nearly 39 points in 2020. I'm no fan of the filibuster, and I would have been deliriously happy if the Democrats had been able to pass a sweeping voting rights bill, as well as the original Build Back Better budget bill with paid family leave, universal pre-K, free community college, the expanded child tax credit, Medicare, dental, eye, and hearing benefits, a bolstered care workforce for children, the elderly, carbon cutting initiatives, expanded healthcare subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, higher tax rates on corporations and the wealthy, and a huge investment in the IRS. It was the stuff of dreams, and not just wild-out liberal dreams. Even Bill Clinton's former Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers, a Cassandra on inflation from way back, said the bill would make needed investments in the country, and since the spending was spread over 10 years, would not be inflationary. Manchin's vision is much narrower. If Biden is able to sign any kind of budget bill before the midterms, it will be in large part Manchin's doing, and it won't be a hard sell given the broad popularity of raising corporate taxes and cutting prices on prescription drugs. Which brings us to Manchin's political instincts. They're spot on, as evidenced by his 57% approval rating at home, up from 40% in the first quarter of last year. The publicity he's gotten for rejecting a few of Biden's nominees and the president's jumbo-sized BB package has served him well at home. I won't lie, some of it has been uncomfortable for blue staters like me. I was most shocked by Manchin's opposition to continuing an expanded child tax credit that lifted millions of children out of poverty while it was in effect last year. It was jarring to read that Manchin reportedly said parents would spend the extra money on drugs. It was discouraging that he was holding out for work requirements that would hurt kids, and it was maddening to watch Manchin move the BBB goalpost time after time. On the other hand, it was also maddening to see progressives and Biden ignore the political realities of Manchin's tenorous position, as well as their own, with hair breadth majorities in both the House and Senate. And they often seem to forget that Senator Kirsten Sinema of Arizona was also an obstacle pro-filibuster even on voting rights, just like Manchin, and against raising corporate tax rates, even though she had been criticized and voted against cutting them as a House member in 2017, just as Manchin did in the Senate. We're almost done here. As for Manchin's tax credit remarks about parents, it is less shocking in context. Researchers have called West Virginia the epicenter of the opioid epidemic. Its overdose fatality rate of 81.4 per 1,000 people in 2020 was nearly 3 times the national average and by far the highest in the country. In May, the state announced that what it called a record-breaking 161.5 million settlement with 2 drug companies accused of fueling the epidemic, the highest per capita sum in a national lawsuit. But for all the trouble he causes, Manchin is more of a Democrat than a Republican, for now. And he's a constructive one. when he won't get on board with his party, he often tries to come up with a third way that works for him and has at least a chance of drawing the 60 votes needed to move a bill forward. In his 50-50 Senate, that means winning over 10 Republicans. And he's usually in the thick of any bipartisan deals in the works, from the landmark infrastructure bill Congress passed last year to current talks on BBB to fixing the 1887 Electoral Count Act that nearly allowed Trump to overturn Biden's victory and keep power after losing. These third way alternatives generally go in the direction Democrats want to go, even they don't go all the way. His counterproposal on the Freedom to Vote Act, for instance, won an endorsement from voting rights activist Stacey Abrams, now making her second race for Georgia governor. I'm not going to read this whole article because I'm not interested in just something that never ends. Here's the problem I have with the article. I will fully admit that Manchin does support some of the things that Biden wants. But the article, the biggest issue for me is that it goes back to this thing of how it makes assumptions, and it also embraces the vote blue no matter who mantra that I greatly dislike. It says, would Democrats prefer a Republican senator from West Virginia? I would. And this same logic has been said by people like Jimmy Dore, for example. What is the point of having Democratic senators, members of your own party, if all they're going to do is block, destroy, and screw up any major legislative attempts at actually changing things that you have? If you have a Republican from West Virginia that's blocking all of Biden's stuff, well, no one's going to say that they're doing this because they want to come to a better deal and they just want to see things through and make some bipartisan. No, people are going to say this person is an obstructionist, like McConnell. You need to vote them out. There's someone who is actively messing with any attempt at progress on these topics. People don't try to psychoanalyze that person to the point of defending them being in the way of the things that the current president actually wants to see done. My favorite part is where she says that not all of the U.S. is like AOC's congressional district. I swear, sometimes when I just read political stuff, when I watch people's videos, it really does feel like this is just the era of AOC. Like, she gets brought up in stuff that has nothing to do. She's not even in the Senate. But secondly, Build Back Better was, for all of its ambition, a watered down version of things that progressives wanted. So you're going to take a moderate bill, or excuse me, a progressive leaning but still moderate bill, because it's watered down from what Sanders and other people wanted, that is attempting to be passed by a moderate president, because that's what Biden is, contrary to all the stuff these Republicans are saying nowadays. He's a moderate politician. You're going to say this bill getting voted down by your supposed centrist senator is supposedly indicative of the Democrats trying to turn the U.S. into representing AOC's congressional districts. So I said, just it does, people write stuff and their logic is lost on me. Why should you, in a Congress where you have a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, a Democratic president, not be able to pass the major legislative things that your party, by and large, wants? Because one senator, or two, because Sinema's also mentioned there, keeps voting against it from your party. And why would you want to retain this? Oh, if they don't have someone like Manchin, they could lose the Senate. So what? What is the purpose of having the Senate if you can't do anything with it because one of the senators on your party side team blocks every major thing you try to do? Seriously, I don't know what is so needed about him. I don't understand where he appeals to anyone in any way other than maybe to Republicans. I don't know any Democrats who are like, man, I was so glad when Manchin voted for Kavanaugh. or Gorsuch, who they didn't pay as much attention to, but I don't know what is appealing about him. And this article, it's almost like it's trying to get me to believe that the Democrats are like somehow helped out by him because he's a seat for them in somewhere that they would have otherwise lost. Because it mentions that Trump won that state by 39 points again. But it's like I don't care. I would rather have more Republicans in the Senate than Democrats if it means that people are actually going to see and blame the specific lawmakers who vote against the things that are in their best interest and not go, oh, well, this person is a Democrat, so them voting the way that Democrats don't want them to vote is good for them keeping their seat. To hell with their seats. If all they do is mess up the things you want, I mean, people have said this before. This isn't even the Biden presidency. This is the Manchin presidency. He has more power than the president. Every time Biden wants to do something, they're not going, oh, I wonder if we can get 10 Republicans. No, they're wondering if they can get one member of their own party to vote for it. And it's the same one over and over again. Well, except sometimes cinema. So, no, I would not miss having Senator, supposedly Manchin in office if it means having another Republican, because at least people would be able to see who's screwing them up. They wouldn't try to just have. That's why I said I've never been so affiliated with a party where I can't look at specific members and say, yeah, this person is not doing anything. I'm not enjoying their tenure. We should get rid of them. Because like, what's the purpose of having these people if they're antagonistic to the things you want? Like, oh, bipartisanship. We're making deals. These deals are half measures. Like that bill was framed in a way because Biden thought that was transformative. That was his opinion on it, and it needed to be passed the way it was. So why would you like? I don't get these people at all. They just it's like they were born to make excuses.